This is Adam Gorney on National Signing Day here with Michigan publisher Maize and Blue Review, Josh Henschke. And Josh, coming off the national championship, is the confetti still on the ground? How is it feeling in Ann Arbor these days?
Yeah, it's been kind of an interesting couple of weeks since the national championship. There's a lot of mixed emotions. It's happy that things were mission was accomplished, but now we're kind of looking at from a full scope from a Michigan perspective, a whole I guess reload, not only just from a team perspective, but now from a coaching perspective too. So it's kind of mixed emotions. If you talk to some folks, they'd act like Michigan is coming off an 0-12 season and with Jim Harbaugh getting canned, but in reality, it's the exact opposite. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting for sure. I mean, I personally haven't seen anything like it, but it's been the most, I mean, not even just from 6 months, I mean, this just from the past year, it's just been a wild ride with ups and downs and twists and turns. So, yeah, mixed emotions is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, wild ride on the field, off the field. We'll get into that a little bit. And when did you guys really start getting the sense from a reporting perspective that Harbaugh was serious about leaving? Was this kind of the feel if he could win a national championship? It was definitely gone. As the NCAA investigation kept going, was it the sense that he was out? I mean, when did you guys get the sense that yes, he's going to go to the NFL?
Well, I don't think we really necessarily got a sense from like being told this was what was going to happen, but I think from just a finality standpoint, I mean, yeah, probably the NCAA probably played a little bit into it, but when you're talking about winning a national championship, he's been there for 9 years. It's kind of felt like a mission accomplished. We got the job done. JJ McCarthy obviously was departing too, so he was going to lose a lot of his guys. So this year kind of really felt like a finality. And obviously, I think the best pill to swallow for most people was for Michigan to win the national championship, so Jim Harbaugh can get his ride off into the sunset moment. But I think for me, the when things got really serious is when he really wasn't. I don't want to say not working, but when he was spending more of his time looking for NFL jobs than he was, being in the building in Ann Arbor. That's kind of a big tip off because the last 2 years he was kind of pulling double duty, and he was very open last year that his intentions to stay. And he does a pretty good job of dancing around questions and things like that, especially about his future. But this year felt a little different. There wasn't any reassurance that he would be back for sure. So that was kind of the big tip off. And the more things got quiet after the LA interview, and then obviously going back to LA for a second time, that's kind of when you got the feeling like, okay, this might actually happen this year.
How nice and refreshing was it that Sharon Moore got the job, considering that he basically went, I believe, 6-0 as a head coach this year when Harbaugh was suspended, and there wasn't a search firm. There wasn't a national. They weren't bringing guys in. They weren't flying private planes. Everyone wasn't watching that stuff. And the guy that kind of deserved it got it.
Yeah. No, 100%. No, I totally agree. The guy who deserved it got the job. And it's kind of nice from Jim Harbaugh's perspective because I mean it was obvious like for the last couple of years that Jim Harbaugh was grooming Sharon Moore to be more than just an offensive line coach or an offensive coordinator. I don't know if anyone predicted it would have happened this soon, but if anyone on the staff was ready, it was Sharon Moore. I mean, as you said, undefeated, filling in for Jim Harbaugh this year, 2 top 10 wins. That means something. I mean, obviously that doesn't traject what his career is going to be at Michigan as a head coach, but it's good. It's a good point to start somewhere. If it's good to say for someone who isn't aware of what Sharon Moore or his credentials are. You've got something tangible that you can point to. So I think from not only just how nice and refreshing it is, but from a culture standpoint too, that you're kind of keeping things status quo and you're not necessarily upsetting the team in terms of transfer portal and all that. I think Michigan has done a pretty good job of keeping things intact. I mean, you've had obviously a couple of defections here and there, but so far within that 30-day window of Jim Harbaugh leaving, there hasn't been any anyone departing that would be considered a serious contender to get playing time this year. And obviously, it's still early, and I may have just jinxed everything, but so far, it's been pretty quiet, and I think that was the intention for Michigan to kind of keep that status quo going with under Sharon Moore.
Yeah, and usually a head coach leaves. You're in the middle of an NCAA investigation, which no one knows is when it's going to wrap up or what's happening there. The defensive coordinator is looking for NFL jobs. Other assistants leave. That could be mass departure time. Just coming
Mhm.
off a national championship, but it wasn't. No commit or signee of any significance decommitted in the last few months.
Mhm.
What does that speak to? Does it speak to Moore's ability, his likability? Or does it speak to the Michigan brand as well?
I think it's everything. I think it's more, and not only more, but Harbaugh too, being open with everyone, saying, "Hey, if I'm leaving, Sharon's going to be the guy." And obviously, the days leading up to to him being hired in LA, and the days after, I give Jim Harbaugh a lot of credit too. I mean, he didn't have to, but he sat down with players, and he told them, what he wanted the plan to be, and to tell guys that stick it out, and not leave. So I think it's a mix of everything. I think the culture, obviously that's a big buzzword that a lot of people use, but I think it's applicable in this case that Sharon is keeping things intact. And obviously we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens down the line. I mean, he's obviously got a couple of staff positions to fill out, and spring ball will be pretty telling in terms of the direction of things. But um, yeah, I think it just speaks to the coaching staff being open, and the players having their say in terms of who they wanted, and Sharon was the obvious choice, and that'll please a lot of people, when you follow what the masses truly want.
Last thing, Josh, following Nick Saban is the most impossible job in college football, but following Jim Harbaugh can't be too easy as well. What are we going to get from Sharon Moore? What kind of recruiter is he going to be? Is he going to be more of a CEO coach? Is he going to call plays? He doesn't have that much coordinator experience, honestly. What are we going to get from him at Michigan next year?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is still TBD, but I do think he's going to carry on being closely involved with the program. I don't see him as a CEO type. He's been on the road recruiting since he's been hired as head coach, so I kind of expect that to happen, to be a very hands-on and aggressive recruiter. I know there's plans for Michigan to be more aggressive in terms of that, and I'm sorry, my dog is just going absolutely nuts right now. Um, it's, Moore's plans are to be more aggressive, to beef up the recruiting department at Michigan too. So I think there's a lot of off-field stuff that he's going to beef up and improve. But I also kind of don't get the sense that he's going to change much who he is. He's always been a guy that has been hands-on. Guy that open about, I'm gonna love my kids, and but coach them hard too. I still see him being heavily involved with the offense, with Kirk Campbell being offensive coordinator, and those two guys having experience too will gel really well. So the whole landscape of what the program looks like under Sharon is going to be it's still kind of to be determined. But if you're aware of who Sharon is as a coach, I don't think he's going to change much of who he is fundamentally.
All right, that's Josh Henschke from Maize and Blue Review. Thanks, Josh.
No problem. Thanks for having me.